So first thing we're going to be doing is we're attempting a third party on two squads that are fighting up here, right? Because they are, well, fighting, right? And so we intentionally landed over here in tree, knowing that these two squads are very close together and going to fight. And so our goal here is to rotate fast, right? Like we want to get here very quickly, be very aggressive in order to make sure that like we show up while they're still fighting and like, you know, distracted with one another, as opposed to like well after, like when they're like gotten the benefit of winning that fight, you know, like with like better shields and stuff like that. So we're definitely like trying to like move here. We wait for our teammate, which I think is like still like the right thing to do, and start trying to like find some shots here. Unfortunate that we don't hit a headshot on that character. And then I'm starting to look to see if I can get up on the high ground and like find some space here.
Yeah, I don't think we pushed this yet.
Yeah, so we're not going to be pushing this here. So I think the first thing that like is like that I do suboptimally here is like right here. So I'm like trying to like set up like these like long lines of sight with a longbow, but it's also like this is like one of the very few like viable like lines of sight here. And so what's gonna happen is I'm gonna get body blocked by my teammate, and like it's like partially on my teammate for like not being aware and like body blocking me, but like the flip side is that like I could have known, right, that this is like, you know, like one of the easier lines of sight to take, and I'm like kind of like hogging it with like a longbow, when in reality I probably could have been playing the head glitch over by the stairs, which isn't like as good of a line of sight, but you know, with a 4-8 sight on it, like I've like got more reach than my teammates. And so, you know, it's like very unlikely that someone else has like, you know, similar amount of reach. And so it's like, this is like a super nice sight line that like I probably just should have left for one of my teammates instead of like, you know, being selfish and trying to maximize my own damage. And so what happens, right, is that we wind up fighting over it, and then I'm going to register a hit in like the back of my teammate's head right here. Not sure if that really would have hit, you know, it's really hard to say, but like it's like, you know, he could have just as easily just registered a shot in the back of mine. So I believe that's the first error. We're going to start taking fire from the right hand side, and so we're going to dip and we're going to back off here, and our line of retreat is going to be like this, and we're going to, and our goal here is going to be to cut around, come in like so, and re-engage from the high ground, so that we're not taking fire from like this direction and that direction. Instead, they're all on, like all the enemy squads are on one side of us, and like we do a nice clean sweep through here, right? The things that we're going to need to watch out for, right, that are like going to be like danger sign to us, let's get a little closer, are one, if the enemy squad is already on high ground here, then there's no reason to fight uphill, right? We can just leave and go back the direction we came. And so we don't want to take a high ground fight. And so if they've already gotten there, that's like the first sign that we should leave. The second is that like if we start getting third partied, or if there's anyone that shows up on that side of us, right, that should indicate to us that we're getting third partied, and we should immediately leave, right? I think those are like the two things that should like just signal to us, right? I think like bad things are happening, right? Like anyone shows up like anywhere on this side of us. Is that a character? No, I think it's the side of like a box. Wait, no, maybe it is.
One cell there.
Go on, look up. I guess I won't be able to know. But yeah, so those are our two trigger points, right? Like of like, you know, immediate reactions. And so, right here, we take fire from the left-hand side, right? So this is the thing that we said. That's like, you know, like one of the reasons like why like it's immediately like no go, right? Because if we start fighting a squad here, then those like one of those squads inevitably from like sorting factory or from launch site, it's very likely that they come over and try to third party us, right? And so our immediate reaction needs to be like get out, like we gotta leave, right? And so I believe this is the second error, right? It's like sort of like I actually did mention like, you know, if we see them on the high ground here, like that like we should like prepare to leave, but I actually hadn't like really, you know, prepared like this reaction here. So this was like another thing that I needed a factor for, right? Like knowing it's very likely that enemies are in sorting factory. So, you know, it's a map choke, natural map choke that people pass through a lot. So that I believe is like the second error that was made.
Oh fuck us.
67 flash.
There like we guys have some like really promising damage exchanges, and so like we sort of stick the fight, which is a little greedy, but like, you know, that's, and that call out's wrong. Like that's because like the rolling, like I broke their armor, and then the rolling total like made it look like that I did, but it was only 36 damage on flesh. So that's just something I need to remember. You know, but like, you know, like so far like we've had like pretty like, you know, pretty good damage exchanges with these enemies. One of them gets knocked in here.
Burning one.
And so I'm like covering the lifeline revive. Lifeline goes down, right? Our third error is right here. So you can see like the little tracer line for it. There's a shot, and there's one shot, that came in through this window here because there is another squad that is up on the high ground here that is trying to third party us, right? And so this is the only shot and indication that they fire before like bad things start to happen to us. And so like this is like very short window of reaction time. However, like this is like sort of like where it's got to happen, right? So like my reaction needs to be like I take whatever shield swap is here, and then immediately our team begins to run back down the hill, right? Because we still do not know for sure if there's no one coming out of sorting factory, and we're clearly like about to get third partied from up here, and our squad is like not in great shape, right? Even with shield swaps, you know, like there's not a whole lot of guarantees here, right? And like there is a definite guarantee that we are getting third party, which is a non-desirable situation. And so what's going to happen here instead, so that's like the error, right? It's like not running, like not just grabbing the shield swap and running away immediately. Like that needed to be our next reaction time. We're not going to get portal. It's at 94%. It's going to take over 10 seconds, like 5 to 10 seconds to heal or to prepare. So like our immediate next reaction just has to be to leave.
Nice.
Next squad. So I take like, so here, right? Like, so you can see like I'm, greedily looting. And this is like not the time to be looting.
I have to switch to...
And then the fourth and final error is going to come up here. This void walk is like probably like not great. I try to stick it because I like want to stick with the team and play for the team instead of running and like trying to like I guess like hoping that like they'll be able to figure out like ways to like hold here and trying to maximize their chances of surviving together as a team, instead of like maximizing individual survivability. So this is a choice that I made. I don't think it's like there's like good or bad. It's just trade-offs, right? But it's like I would have rather tried to win and finish this game as a team than having to try to play this out solo. I probably could have placed higher had I gone and like ratted alone and just used my void walk to get away. But I don't think it's like the optimal way to play Apex, and it's like it places very little faith in my teammates and their ability to sort of like deal with bad situations, And so, I like to hold here, which, is not great. So right here, I pull out my longbow, and I think it's my Havoc, but I've got my longbow out, and I'm like trying to fire it and hold down and empty the rest of my Havoc mag, but instead I'm stuck in the reloading animation for the longbow here, and it takes me too long to recognize this, and so for the next, like, how long? For about 3 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds here, I've like just got out a Havoc, or got out the longbow instead of the Havoc, and I'm doing no damage, right? And so I like run through 50 shields and like almost like 50 HP, dealing with this horizon, like which basically looking at the damage exchange, I probably could have like only spent like 25 to 50 shields and then been in a much better shape to deal with like the remaining enemies.
Yeah.
So there are like a lot of things that like could have been done better. And there are like a lot of signs that things were not going well, and like got greedy with like the way that we responded to them, or didn't necessarily like prepare reactions for them. So yeah, so that pretty much covers